Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 13 of Tour of Japan, the review series for the Super GT cars of Gran Turismo 6. And in this episode we're featuring a GT300 model. It is the Subaru BRZ from R&D Motorsport. Now this is available in two forms. There's this version here with the existing livery, and there's also a base model which you can paint in obviously whichever colour you choose, but in terms of performance they're both exactly the same. Now this model straight off the bat is the least powerful JGTC car in the game. Fully tuned, it puts out 445 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. So that doesn't sound like a particularly impressive start. It also weighs 1150 kilos, which isn't as light as you might expect either. It's certainly not heavy, but that's nothing special for a JGTC car. The power-to-weight ratio per tonne is 387, which isn't too surprising because it doesn't have a huge amount of power to begin with. And the PP is also a surprisingly low 547, which is significantly lower than many of the other, if not all, of the other JGTC cars. Now it's got a 2-litre engine, and it doesn't exactly sound like a particularly exciting deal of a car. It costs 500,000 credits, so it's pretty expensive for a GT300 class model. And I think one of the main reasons why it costs 500,000 credits is because it's a new model for the first time, as far as I'm aware, for the first time being featured on Gran Turismo. So it's got that new car feel. It's exciting, it's new, it's something interesting, a new development in racing. So it's got the price tag because they know people will pay that just because it's something new and potentially different. But what does it actually have to offer against its rivals in the JGTC category in general, but obviously specifically in the GT300 class? Well, not surprisingly, it's not much of a challenger in terms of straight line performance. It's certainly not a slow car, but compared to virtually all of the other JGTC models, it just doesn't have the power to give them a real battle, especially for top speed. The top speed on this car is around the 180 to 190 mile per hour region, which is slower than most, if not all, again, of its rivals. The acceleration is okay, pretty good for its power, but again, it's not going to worry a GT500 NSX, etc. anytime soon. Now, probably not too surprisingly, this car's main area of expertise, as is the case with many GT300s, but this one in particular, is its cornering. The GT500s are generally known for being very, very fast, whereas the GT300s are known primarily for their grip, handling and brakes, and those are where this car comes into its element. Now, I'm not necessarily going to say it has the best handling of any Super GT car, but it certainly does have very good handling, and the fact that it has less power than many of its rivals actually means that it's slightly easier to drive for beginners. Now, you could always say, yeah, but just give any other car less power and surely it would handle just as well. Well, with some models that could perhaps be the case. But let's face it, most people who buy a car are probably going to fully upgrade it. That's the point. You want it to be as good as it can be, unless, of course, you're specifically running it at a certain PP. This car, however, even fully tuned, has a very modest spec, and because of that, it's actually the perfect car for introducing people to the field of Super GT JGTC racing, because it has a much more manageable amount of power, there's virtually no wheel spin, a massive amount of grip, very forgiving handling, very good brakes, and it's also based on more of a sports model than, say, the Ep.13 is, so it naturally lends itself to having superior aerodynamics, a more compact layout, and also a lower centre of gravity than potentially some other JGTC cars. And all of those things added together do make it a very good beginner's car. It's extremely forgiving to drive, it flows through corners very well, but in terms of actual competitiveness, you do have to be very selective, to be completely honest, when you choose to use this car. Now, the fact that its PP is only 547 is actually quite a good thing, because 547 PP is around the same kind of territory as, say, a modified road car. And although some lobbies may not allow you to use it in that category, if by any chance you do enter a lobby that allows you to use it, the handling does give it a significant advantage in those kind of situations. But against other JGTCs, I'd be very selective on where you choose to use it. The twistier the track, the better this car will do. So overall, it's not a straight line monster, but it's certainly not a bad car either. So, that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.